So, welcome to everybody. It's wonderful for all of you to be here. It's always impressive that people are willing to Zoom in. For those of you who have been attending our fundraisers for a while, thank you so much. And for anybody who's new, we are just really, really grateful to have you join in. However you heard about us, from whoever co-host. We're just really glad that you are coming in to find out what we're doing and who we're doing it for. I'm just going to say a few words before I turn it over to Jim Shelton, who is our 31st Street political analyst, strategist. I just want to sort of give you a little bit of context. This is our 6th fundraiser of the year. So we've had 5 for different states over the last year. We have raised a total of $1,512,000 this year in 2022. That's not just from fundraisers, that's also from our talking to donors, our giving ourselves, our sending emails to our networks. But part of it is these fundraisers that we have and people who come, who feel inspired and who donate incredibly generously. We have had 218 co-hosts over the course of this year. That does not count tonight's co-hosts, which just sort of tells me that we have an incredibly active community of people who are willing to step in and help us. We are getting down to the wire, as all of you know, and to use a cliche that just keeps running in my head, the wind is at our backs. I mean, we're really rocking it in so many ways. Women are registering in record numbers. People are activated for all of the reasons that we know. We're closing in on November. It no longer feels like a marathon. It feels like we're in the last stretch and we can see the finish line. And it feels like we've run a really good race. We're doing really well. We are not lagging behind. We're keeping up and pushing forward and passing some of the Republican candidates who are running against us. So we're in a good space, but it's really important to go like pedal to the metal all the way to the end. And you will hear tonight what your donations will be used for in the coming weeks. So tonight we're going to hear from 2 of our Slate candidates from Pennsylvania. We are hearing from Vito Malakari and Johanni Sapeda Freitas. And first you're going to hear from Jim Shelton about sort of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why Pennsylvania is such a crucial state. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim, and thank you again for being here. Yeah, Jim has a co-host slide. Sorry, I forgot that. This is a list of our co-hosts for tonight. And thank you very much, all of you, for inviting guests. Okay, Jim.
So Jim Shelton, political analyst. Just wanted to say that we originally had a goal of $80,000, but we've actually been raising money already. You can see in the chat, we're at about $66,000 already, thanks to what a lot of you have been doing. So we've now increased that goal to $100,000, which, believe me, will help these folks quite a bit. Just to those of you who don't know me, I'm a retired public health physician and epidemiologist. I'm proud to say I got my COVID booster shot yesterday, and I'm doing fine, and I'm happy if everybody will feel like they want to do the same. End of the public health message, and I'm going to share my screen and talk, make some other points. So again, some of you may not know us, some of you may know us very well. I do feel obliged to give a couple of slides on why we go about this and how we go about this, because our goal is to maximize your dollars and our dollars to have the most effect we can have to save our democracy. So we do look hard for very strategic opportunities. We'll be talking about that, which often means that we're doing something that other people are not doing, zigging when other people are zagging. We're highly focused on the areas that the geographic areas and the kind of things that we do, following a lot of kinds of evidence with due diligence, but staying nimble. And when the facts change, we change. And when the times change, we also change, because timing is so important in what we do. And just to continue to kind of lay out a little bit the challenges that we have in our system, which is that, campaign efforts are very episodic and also largely isolated from each other. So yes, you can contribute to the marquee campaigns and so forth. People do, and that's actually is very helpful. But we look for a different way to do things, because those marquee candidates get huge support, tens of millions of dollars, if not more. And the lion's share of that goes to television, and much of it very late when everybody's kind of sick of those television ads. TV does have a role, but so much money goes there. We try to look for different things. So we invested a lot in the last year, as Lisa alluded to, in the Democratic parties in some of these states and in grassroots groups that we think we can help all these things collectively, and we call that infrastructure. But now we're down to the down ballot races, where there's still time to have an impact. So that's what we're doing tonight. And again, our focus is primarily on these 3 states. We know them reasonably well, but especially Pennsylvania. It's a higher priority actually than any other state. I would say we know it better than the other state. And as you'll see, we've been doing a lot to this very pivotal keystone state. And as Lisa, the point that she made, the tide is definitely turning. I don't need to have time to go into all these things as to why or what's happening. There are lots of things working well. Biden's got his mojo and so forth. And that's all great. But part of that is because the Republicans have just overplayed their hand, and they've gone too far out in what they're doing. And that is perverse, but it's actually helping us at this point in time. And just, I can't resist showing a little bit of data as an epidemiologist. But one thing is that there's lots of data on abortion out there. This is just one of many showing that it really is helping us in terms of preference, that people have the preference for candidates who want to support legal abortion, but also the intensity is there. We're getting much better intensity than we have had on other issues. But then remarkably, sort of on the positive side, there have been a bunch of legislative victories for us. The latest of which, and arguably maybe the most important, is the Inflation Reduction Act, so-called, which has a lot of great things in it. And interestingly, at least in this one survey, a lot of people had heard of it, and a lot of people liked it. And they especially liked it once it was sort of explained in detail what was in it. So that's, we generally feel like it takes a long time for the typical voter to sort of even hear about these things, but somehow this seems to be getting through. Again, more of the tide turning for us. So now shifting to Pennsylvania, just to remind us of what's at stake. Key governorship, very key US Senate seat, Fetterman running for 3 House seats, US House seats, that are holds that we really need to win in order to keep the House. And by the way, I think we have a really decent shot to keep the House this year. And supporting these state House candidates will actually help that effort as well. And we actually have a possibility, though a long shot, of winning the state House of Representatives in Pennsylvania. So just again, to kind of go back, how we got here. We didn't just start, with these legislature races. We spent a lot of money on the Pennsylvania Democratic Party infrastructure. these grassroots groups, which we think contribute to this collective effort of electing Democrats up and down the ballot. We've raised at this point actually $75,000 for one U.S. House candidate, Chris DeLuzio, in the what is currently the Connor Lamb district north of Pittsburgh. We do canvassing and voter outreach every weekend. You're welcome to join us. We'd love to have you. All that for Pennsylvania. And now we're getting to our Pennsylvania State House candidates, our 8. So now, why is this important to us in this general context of supporting Pennsylvania? Because there's a very extremist Republican legislature currently in Pennsylvania. There's always up to all kinds of mischief, including potentially getting constitutional amendments on the ballot that can undermine our electoral process. And of course, on the positive side, sometimes good things do get passed. Even if we don't win in the Senate, sometimes you have enough people who want to get something done. The more Democrats we have, the better chance we have of that. Now, here's a concept, power up. Well, what does that mean? And basically, it's like reverse coattails. And we believe very strongly, and if you sort of get engaged at these local elections, you totally believe it, which is that when you have strong local candidates that are bringing out the people for them, and a lot of time the ground game is these people. It's not necessarily, the statewide candidates. That definitely brings out Democrats that will vote for us up ticket as well. Then, of course, we want to have good candidates because we want to have them moving through the system on up. So we want to have a good bench for the future. And then lastly, there is this unfortunate problem that there's the possibility the Supreme Court may turn over the Electoral College function to legislatures. And if we have a Democratic House, then we won't have that problem, which would be a nightmare. But here we go. Perhaps most important, these folks don't have that much money. And we may hear from them, just what some of this money might go for, which, can make a big difference in what they're doing. All right, one piece of data from Pennsylvania, and again, Lisa alluded to it, which is that women are registering to vote and younger people are registering to vote. And these are some data that since the Dobbs decision, looking at different states and arguably or possibly ones where the issue of abortion is more or less of a concern, you can see that in Pennsylvania, this was a sort of mid-August, there was a 12% differentiation between men and women versus men, whereas usually it'd be about 4%. So it's a harbinger that something's going on and that women are registering and hopefully we're turning out for us as well. So just to give you an idea of this sort of power up kind of thing and how it works in a way, one of our candidates who's not going to be with us tonight, Mandy Steele, she's over in in Allegheny County near Pittsburgh as well. She's right smack in the district of Chris DeLuzio, again, this House seat that we have to win. We have to win all these, these House seats. And then, of course, that helps Shapiro and Fetterman. But then also our very own Vito Malakari is, say, 99% within Matt Cartwright's district over there in District 8. And that also helps us with Shapiro and Fetterman. So this is part of the reason why we selected these people, by the way, is that that's part of our thinking. So here they are, just to remind you again, a lot of fresh, young, energetic faces. And we think they can bring a lot to our legislature if we can only help them to win. And now we'll get back to our goal again, which is $100,000. And we're 2/3 of the way there. And we'll hear from Lynn later about Lynn Fletcher about why this is so important. But let me just say that the train is kind of leaving the station, or maybe really is leaving the station. because money a few weeks from now is really going to be much less valuable, and money right now can still make a difference in these races. But in a few weeks, it's really not going to have any impact. So my hope is that folks will go ahead and do what they're going to do and do it soon. So supporting their great work. And that just brings me to just sort of turning it over to our guests. They know that our standard practice in the interest of time is that we don't do long introductions. They're going to talk a little bit about themselves. So I'm just going to turn it over to Vito Malakari.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I want to first say thank you a third time to everybody that is here that has donated in the past, people that will donate tonight, and people that will donate into the future. My name is Vito Malakari, and I'm running for Pennsylvania State House District 119 for the Pennsylvania State Legislature. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a public school teacher. And the reason I'm running in this race is quite simple. I have twin 5-year-olds here at home and 132 kids I see each day at the Northwest Area School District. And I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for the kids at school to ensure they have safety when they enter school, that they're never fearful of something tragic that may happen. I'm doing this for my kids at home and my community members to make sure we have safe communities for our families to grow in, where neighbors could talk to neighbors and we don't have to argue and bicker over every little thing, and we can find common ground and common sense towards policy solutions. And I'm doing this for my grandmother, my Nona, who's 94 years old and still has the ability to live in her own house, because her inspiration to me is ensuring people can succeed in this world by working hard, but having common sense solutions to their everyday problems and putting working people first. For far too long here in Pennsylvania, special interest groups have been put first, and working class individuals have had to shoulder the tax burden. They haven't had legislation passed to help them, like raising the minimum wage from $7.25 to a livable wage for families. We haven't seen family sustaining jobs be driven to this area. Instead, it's a continuation of the same old, same old. I want to change that. I want to put working families first. I want to put kids in schools first. And I want to make sure, most importantly, that we protect a woman's right to choose. Like Jim alluded to, in the Pennsylvania State House, there's many extremists, and extreme bills. One such, SB 106, would essentially take the right of a woman to choose what she wants to do with her own body away. And they would do that through a constitutional amendment process. And in Pennsylvania, the way that happens is the State House must pass this bill twice, with the governor vetoing it twice. The second time this bill will be up for a vote is in January of 2023. That's when hopefully I take my seat along with another 12 legislators, so Democrats can take the House and pass common sense legislation to help working class families here every day, to turn away SB 106 so that women have the autonomy to do with their bodies what they so choose. I'm very passionate about this subject because many of the doors that I have knocked throughout my canvassing time and field experience over the last few months have led women to open up about their stories of abortion. Their stories of choosing something, a very intimate decision that they had made, and how they want to protect that, not only for their own children, for their grandchildren and women into the future. The money that you've given me, the money that you donate to this cause, will help get me to the finish line. I'm up against a rather young competitor. I'm 36 myself, and my competitor is 21 years old. Quite frankly, he still lives at home with his parents, and his mom does his laundry and washes his dirty underwear every day. However, he's a model and a mold of Donald Trump and Doug Mastriano here in Pennsylvania. The money that you could raise for us here in Pennsylvania could help us get to the finish line and put candidates over the edge. Getting this money now would help me so much, and I plan to use it in the digital world, on social media and Google searches, to push forward our message to more and more eyeballs. As people interact with their phones and their computers more and more each day and become more in tune with the election coming up in just a few short weeks, our digital ad spend needs to increase dramatically so we can reach more eyes and put more emphasis on the people's important decision that comes on November 8th. The money that you would raise would help me fund my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google search ads to push out to people within my district here in Luzerne County. I find it important that we spend this money wisely and efficiently. I sometimes feel like a bottom feeder, which is good. That's okay. And as a public school teacher, I'm used to not having the supplies or the tools that I need, and I go out and get it done myself. But today, I humbly ask that you all reach deep into your hearts, into your pockets, to help us change and flip this legislature. I believe the down ballot theory is correct. The reverse coattail theory is correct. I've knocked thousands of doors. We've made thousands of phone calls, sent thousands of text messages. We've sent thousands of postcards and thousands more doors, postcards, texts, and we'll be done and knocked. We just need some help now. Help us spread our message. Help us spread the word. Our story is fantastic. And if we want to see things done in Pennsylvania, to right the ship, to put working families first, to put kids first, to put schools first, it starts here with our down ballot races. We'll help carry Matt Cartwright to victory and hold the House at the federal level. We'll help John Fetterman get elected to the Senate so Democrats can once again have an advantage in the Senate. And most importantly, Josh Shapiro will win the gubernatorial race. But that only happens if we have the support down ballot to raise everybody up. I thank you for my time, and I thank you for your support in this effort.
Thank you so much, Vito. That was awesome. You are amazing. Thank you so much for running. I know it is a thankless task, and it's exhausting, and it's expensive, and it's just, you have to be really hopeful in order to do it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So now we are going to turn to Johanni.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for creating this space to support candidates such as myself and Vito and others alike. I'm very grateful, very appreciative. I also want to thank Vito for stepping up to the plate, because this is not an easy task. This is not an easy thing to do, and that's why not many people do it, right? So my name is Johanni Cepeda Freitas. I'm the daughter of immigrant parents who came into this country from Dominican Republic in pursuit of the American dreams and pursuing opportunities. My mom instilled in me education, education, education. Knowledge is power. My dad instilled in me hard work, determination, dedication. But above all things, everything you do in life, you do with passion, you do with purpose, you do with love, or you don't do it at all. I'm the mother of two wonderful teenagers. My 17-year-old just started his senior year in high school. My daughter, Anise, she's 18. She started her first semester in college. She's attending George Washington University in DC. Super excited for her and her career path. I'm the wife of a former ASME union president. So yes to unions. I'm also a small business owner. So I run a restaurant called Mi Casa Su Casa Cafe, which has become a community hub in the city of Reading. In addition, I'm also serving on city council. I'm currently the president of our city council here in Reading. Why am I running? I'm running because I care, because I'm not your typical politician. The word politician makes me cringe oftentimes. I hated politics growing up. However, having lived in the city of Reading for the past 16 years with my business, because I am originally from New York City, politics is very much integrated in our day-to-day life. And I've learned that in order to make changes, the necessary changes, especially for the small community in which I reside, I needed to step up to the plate so that I can have a voice for those that often don't have one. So I can also have a voice for those that don't speak English. So I can have a voice for communities, for social justice. And so I can have a voice also for my colleagues and small business owners, because we've been through a lot, especially through this pandemic. It's been quite a challenge. I've always been very community engaged. In my former life before Reading, I lived in New York City and I ran a community center. So working with community empowerment, advocating for young people, for young people's rights, for parents' rights is of extreme importance to me. So for me, one of my priorities, just like Vito, is education. I believe every child deserves the right to equitable education regardless of where they live. It's unacceptable, the disparity that exists within my district, whereas in my city of Reading, where we're considered very poor, our schools are over-enrolled and unfortunately underperformed. And then when you go across the different school districts, the narrative changes and it's unfair. Also, the minimum wage is of extreme importance. I don't understand how we expect people to live at $7.50 an hour. That's completely unacceptable and it needs to change. And we need to help people get out of poverty through education and family sustaining jobs. Also, gun violence is at a rise, and we need to have more regulations. We need to have more gun education. We need to make sure that guns do not land in in the hands of teens. I have a friend about a year ago who lost her 17-year-old to gun violence. And at that time, I wanted so much to help her and be there for her. And I didn't understand how or what I could do to just make things better. And when this opportunity presented itself because of the redistrict thing, I said, I'm going in, because, if I don't do it, who will? There's so much at stake, and there's so much that we have to work towards. So if I don't step up, who's going to? And so here I am at the service of the people and of our community. Also, I don't want to get too personal, but I want to share to you why healthcare, affordable healthcare, accessible healthcare is of extreme importance to me. So unfortunately, this past year, I spent time taking care of my dad, who was battling pancreatic cancer. Unfortunately, I did lose him on July 2nd. So not that long ago. And I almost didn't run because I wanted to be there for my dad, who has been my rock in my back, who actually helped build this successful restaurant that I currently own. And obviously he's on Medicare. He was also a union guy, but I saw disparities also in his care because of his health insurance, and having to wait for certain CT scans because we needed to get approval and things of the sort. Even his treatment so expensive, and I'm just like, well, how are people his age who are in retirement expected to cover all of their medical expenses while still maintaining and sustaining their way of living, their homes? And even while I door knocked, obviously, I came across a lot of elderly couples who forced to have to sell their homes because they could no longer afford it. So my motto is always people above politics. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to support and provide and help those that are in need. And I, again, thank you for supporting my people-powered movement. How I won the primary is exactly how I intend on winning the general. And it's by door knocking and dialing for dollars. And my people power movement consists of a variety of people, variety of ages, variety of demographics. I even have young people knocking on doors with me, from my kids to their friends, to everyone from the neighborhood. So these dollars do matter. They do make a difference. And I implore and I thank you to help us get this win. And for the first time in the district of the 129th, which I intend on representing, we will be flipping the seat. It's always been Republican held. This will be the first time that we flip the seat. So I'm gonna thank you in advance for helping us make this difference that we so desperately need. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the space. I would also be the first, maybe, or the only Latina serving in the House of Representatives. So again, thank you for making this happen, and thank you for joining this fight with us. I'm very appreciative.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for running. Thank you so much for staying in the race despite your loss. That was just really, it was helpful to hear, because it just speaks to your passion and your determination. We are going to take questions for these candidates in a few minutes. First, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn Fletcher, and then we're going to come back for a quick Q&A. And so if you have questions for either of these candidates or both of these candidates, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will curate those questions in just a few minutes. Lynn?
Hi. Well, first, wow. I want to thank Johanni and Vito. Your energy, your dedication is so inspiring. I was reading some of the comments in the chat, and you have blown us away. And Pennsylvania is going to be a much better place with leaders like the two of you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lynne Fletcher. I'm a member of 31st Street, and my husband Bob and I are one of your co-hosts tonight. And I do want to thank all the co-hosts for stepping up, and everybody for being here this evening. I truly believe that our country is on a knife's edge. What was once unthinkable only a few short years ago is now a clear and present danger: an anti-democratic, authoritarian America. And Pennsylvania sits right on the very edge. As you heard Vito explain, if the Pennsylvania legislature remains in Republican hands in the next session, they will pass a state constitutional amendment paving the way to prevent all abortions and many contraceptives. Bogus electors can be appointed if they don't like the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. The importance of Pennsylvania did not escape President Biden when he spoke in Philadelphia just last week. And he was speaking to each of us. Here's what he said, part of what he said. If we all do our duty, if we do our duty in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. And we proved that for all the imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There is nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are, and that's who we must always be. Bob and I are heeding that call. We have donated $1,000 to tonight's slate. We ask you to join us. Please reach as deep as you can. Now is the time to stretch. It has never been so important. Let's all do our duty. Let's keep the faith. Let's preserve our precious democracy for our children and generations to come. We can do this. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to answer your questions.
Thank you, Lynn. That was so well said. And thank you to Vito and Johanni for joining us tonight and really just being so inspiring. So anyway, we have a few questions in the chat, which I will lift up. And then if other people have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can even, well, it'll be hard for me to see you if you raise your hand, but put them in the chat. Okay, so first question, Jim, could you just say of the candidates on our slate, how many of them would be flips?
They're all either flips or open seats. Vito happens to be one that is actually held by a Democrat, and I'm not sure about the eighth one. What's happened is with redistricting, we've actually gotten some seats that, because of fair districts, we're getting some additional ones that are actually fairly solid for us. So it really is within our ability if things go well. It is our ability to flip the legislature over. Great, thank you.
And then a question for Vito and Johanni. There's been questions in the chat about your polling. So maybe you could just speak a little bit about how it's going. Vito, we want to make sure that your opponent stays home with his mom and she continues to wash his dirty underwear. So how's that going?
Yeah, Aaron, no, thank you. I appreciate that. That's my comment I make to all of the trade organizations and unions I go and visit. So it goes over well. When it comes to polling, we did have a poll done early to mid-August, and it didn't come back favorably for us. We saw ourselves down double digits to our opponent. When that happened, we turned and reset our campaign to spend more heavily in the digital world to get our message out there to more eyes and more ears on people's phones and people's computers. We have another tracker that's coming up in late September that we believe will show us turning the tide. The major difference in this poll that occurred in early August was simple name recognition. People not knowing who I was or what my story was. Even though all of the work that we have done, there's so much more that needs to be done. And when it comes to that poll, we expect ourselves to be within the margin and striking distance come the end of September. So, in all honesty, that's where we're at.
So I want to make a comment on that too, which was that the way these polls are done, usually what they do is they talk about the generic Democrat and the generic Republican. And in that case, the Democrat was only down by 2. And the problem then was that not that many people recognized Vito's name. And so in the head-to-head, it didn't come out as well. But that just means we need to get his message out. Over.
Great. Johanni, do you want to speak about your polling?
Sure. So our polls were conducted, I think it was last month, July. I can't recall if it was July, late June, early July. I mean, just so much has been happening, so I'm losing track of time. However, the polls were favorable. Over 50% would vote for me. In the 30, a little bit over 30% would vote for the Republican, and then in the remainder in undecided. So, you know, unfortunately, because of the nature of my business, Latino American restaurant, I've been able to reach a lot of the masses through food in the 16 years that I've been in business. And what I found as I knocked on doors, the minute I said I own Mi Casa Su Casa, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I love your food. So while they didn't identify with my name, they identify with my restaurant and through my food. So that's how I've been able to get smiles, right? Because it can be an intimidating thing when you knock on somebody's doors and they're looking you up and down with these, you know, like, who the hell are you and what do you want type of look, right? So because of the nature of my business and how I treat my customers, you know, it's how I just carry myself. It's been favorable, thank God. But, you know, we can't sleep. So we got to keep fighting and we got to keep door knocking and we got to keep raising dollars. So we can't speak because I don't know what my opponent is doing. He's very dormant and that scares me.
Yeah, somebody in the chat mentioned that your opponent has been in office since 2007, went to a Christian college and a Catholic law school. What is sort of your strategy for countering him?
Oh, he's never served in office. Right, so the incumbent retired. And so he's never really served in office. He is a retired school teacher. Again, I haven't seen much mobility from that campaign. But again, you know, I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, right? So I have to stay vigilant and stay knocking, stay calling. And we're actually doing a lot of mailers. I realized a lot of the mailers are working. We're also tapping into the social media, a lot of phone banking. So using all the means to reach our constituency. But yeah, it really worries me because I don't know what he's doing. I've seen a website, I've seen maybe 2 articles related to his candidacy and what he believes in. And that's as far as I've seen.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Vito, maybe you can take this one and then we'll return to Johanni. Vito, what are the 3 issues your voters most care about, do you think?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the number one issue that people care about, family sustaining jobs, bringing jobs with real wages and real benefits to the area. My pitch has always been driving family sustaining jobs that are built off the backs of our union brothers and sisters. That's number one. The second big issue that people really care about is education funding, specifically trying to reduce the property tax burden on seniors and veterans. And the third real big issue is going to be affordable healthcare and healthcare in general. For far too long, people here in Luzerne County have had to make a decision. Do they go see the doctor or do they go to work? Do they buy their prescription drugs or do they go to the grocery store? And that's not a sustainable life for anybody. And those are the 3 big issues that we need to tackle that I find on the doors that people want to talk about the most. And once they hear, you know, the plan, the story, it's one of those things that they're in. They've been encumbered. They'll follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They'll check the website out and you know, put a sign in their yard. So those are the 3 big issues we're looking at generally.
Great, thank you. Johanni, same question. And also, what is sort of your stance on reproductive rights? We heard Vito talking about that. I'm just curious where you land.
So I want to echo Vito's sentiments because I found those to be some of the top 3 issues in addition to gun violence. Safety obviously is key. And, you know, when I talk to women, obviously the Roe v. Wade is of major concern. And we just you know, as a woman, I don't appreciate anyone deciding over me and my body, and much less a man deciding over me and my body. So yeah, that fires me up and it makes me angry because we're in the year 2022, where we need to be more progressive, we can't go backwards into time. So whatever it takes, we have to get into office. We have to flip all seats. We got to get all Dems into every single office so that we are making the right choices for everyone.
Wonderful, thanks. Okay, another question for both of you. Maybe we'll just keep flipping back and forth. Vito, why do you think Republicans are so effective and Democrats traditionally have kind of been ineffective in reaching the working class Americans? What can be done to sort of improve the Democratic message to appeal to that group, even though it seems like Republicans are working against the interests of working class Americans, but they seem to be more effective at speaking to them. So love to get your viewpoint and then Johanni's viewpoint.
Yeah, so I think the big reason is this. Republicans like to change the narrative. They like to change the story. They like to frame Democrats as giving jobs to people that don't deserve them, as elitists, as individuals who are out of sync and out of touch with the average working class person. When in reality, we are the party, we are the people fighting for working families. I come from a working class family. My dad's a 30-year Navy vet and my mom is still a cashier at Walmart. I've worked every day of my life since I was 14 years old, paying taxes, washing pots and pans at a nursing home. Before that, as a young man, I'd go with my dad on odd jobs, pouring concrete or painting lines. As Democrats, to reach working class individuals, we need to talk to them. We need to knock their door. We need to tell them our plan, tell them how we support them, and that we aren't elitist. We're not better than. We want to help lift everybody up, not just certain individuals. We don't want to buy into special interests. We want to invest in the interests of everybody. We don't want to look at people as lesser than. We want to look at everybody as a community. One of the things that I like to tell people is I'm going to choose community over chaos. I'm not going to try to be false or fake. I'm going to tell people with integrity and honesty exactly what we need to do by raising the wage, driving family sustaining jobs to our areas, supporting our union brothers, and finding ways to help lift families up that are in poverty, ensuring that there's affordable housing and affordable healthcare for everyone. So really what I guess, Aaron, is the biggest thing is messaging, is talking to people and explaining, putting out there just who we are and where we stand and how we can lift people up by offering them a ladder of success from where they are to a middle-class livelihood.
Great, great. Johanni, what do you say?
Voter turnout. Democrats are falling behind and are lacking in voter turnout. The primaries was a clear example. I listed in the 129th. The Republicans showed up and showed out in outrageous numbers, and we are falling behind. So voter registration drive, we got to get into the schools. As soon as a child turns 18, voter registration card. So at my place of business, I have voter registration applications in both English and Spanish. And I'm constantly and consistently asking people who are registered to vote, do you know why you need to vote? And when we have dialogue and conversation, well, why do you feel your vote doesn't matter? Let's talk about it. So do you believe in like what I'm doing? Do you support me that I need you to register to vote and go and vote and exercise the right to vote? So I'm knocking on doors in English and Spanish, doesn't matter, stressing. And I keep it very raw and very real. This is who I am. What you see is what you get, but obviously very respectful with a lot of love and a lot of passion. But voter registration education has to be a year-round thing. And in addition, I think Democrats, we need to do a better job at preparing candidates, at identifying candidates, of having candidate trainings on an ongoing basis, because people need to understand that they all have a role to play, and they can also run for office, right? Again, I stepped up, not necessarily because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because somebody has to step up and do something about all this chaos and what our nation is becoming. For me, this is do or die. And that is what I stress to people on an ongoing business. And even in my place of business, at my restaurant, I mean, we're scheduling a voter registration drive with like music and like food and entertainment in a couple of weeks. I've just scheduled it with they're called Next Gen Americans. So I'm partnering with that organization, nonpartisan, but forget that. I need you to register to vote, and this is why. And I kid you not, when I've knocked on doors especially young people, 21, 22, who are working and are a little clueless when it comes to registering to vote. I exchange cell phone numbers. I'm like, okay, when you get this done, I need you to send me a screenshot. And at my place of business, I collect the application, I pay for the stamp, and I give it to the mailman. Like, I am not playing. So yes, did that answer the question? Ongoing voter registration, stressing the importance. People died for people like me to and women to have the right to vote. Do not let that go in vain.
Wonderful. Do or die. This is a do or die moment, and we are there with you. Johanni, while I have you here, and then I'll ask Vito the same question. This question came up in the chat. Where will the money from 31st Street be used in your campaign? How's the fundraising going for you vis-a-vis your opponent? And are you getting much support, financial or otherwise, from the state Democratic Party?
Yes. So the locals, so yes, we're getting support from the state Democratic Party, also from the county and also from the local. Everyone is going out canvassing. How will the money be utilized? We need to pay for mailers. We need to also, we're going to go towards a paid canvassing. I want to give young people an opportunity, not only to volunteer, but to also maybe earn a few dollars and help us knock on doors and do phone banking. So I want to find a way to also pour it right back into the community and empower them and help them be part of this history, because then it's going to be vivid in their mind and they're going to keep paying it forward and keep stressing the importance of voter registration. And also our social media, ads, the digital medias, the mailers, the print, the palm cards. So it's, I'm not exploring billboards because I know billboards can be ineffective, but sometimes they make a visual impact.
Mm-hmm. Great. Vito, how about for you?
Yeah, so fundraising's been going pretty well. Let me give you an example. Excuse me. 2 weeks ago, we held a fundraiser at a local brew pub. We invited a couple dozen people, over 100 showed up. We set a goal of raising $5,000. We raised almost $13,000. So we have excitement and we have electricity bottled up and we're putting it out there. Like Johanni, I have lots of young people that want to volunteer for me, former students that are coming back to the area that want to donate their time like I've donated my time to them. And we're paying them $20 an hour to go out and canvass for us. I believe it's important that giving them a piece of this pie, a piece of this puzzle to go out and do work for us is incredibly important. Money from 31st Street, I can tell you right now, is earmarked to go to our digital campaign. It is earmarked to go towards Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google searches. It's geared to go towards ads that you will see as you check out websites within the district. We believe in investing heavily in our digital footprint. And that could be a very impactful piece to this puzzle. We do have other money going into mail. We do have other money that's being used for text programs and our dialer programs. But I can tell you specifically, and every dollar that we raise here, that you guys raise here for me, will be earmarked for the digital campaign. And we have a special digital campaign that we're going to be starting in just a week or two, focused specifically on women and women's rights, especially access to women's healthcare and reproductive rights. So that money specifically will be used for those programs and those events. But money, like Jim said earlier, money now is of the most importance. Money come, in 4 or 5 weeks in late October or the first week of November. That's great. It will put it to use, but now is the time to help us get that message, close the gap for us and overtake our opponent. Excuse me. Luzerne County is such an anomaly. And if I could just take a second, in the district that I'm running in, if you take every race from the 2020 campaign, Donald Trump won this seat by 16 points, but Josh Shapiro, the gubernatorial candidate, won this seat by 2.5 points. So there is so much optimism. There is so much opportunity. We just have to seize it. And with your help, we will do that.
Great. Okay, I think we are almost out of time, so we're going to leave it there. I think that's a great note to end on. I will turn the mic back over to Lisa.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a great evening. Johanni and Vito, I think, kind of knocked it out of the park. We always love our candidates. They're very well vetted. Jim does a really good job talking to people and figuring out what they're doing and what kind of campaigns they're running and what district they're in and whether it is in our sweet spot. But I think the two of you really just You're really amazing, and we're just very grateful that you're doing what you're doing, and we're very, very happy to support you. Thank you to all who donated before tonight, during tonight, tomorrow. The donation link has been in the chat, but if you have any confusion about how to donate, you can go on our website, www.31ststreet.org. And if you're not a member, sign up. You'll get our newsletters, and you can help us in November. Just keep thinking about how it's going to feel the day after Election Day. I just keep envisioning amazing wins that fill me with hope for the country. And I'm just sticking with that. So thank you all for coming. Have a good night. And by the way, we have one more fundraiser for 2022. It is next Wednesday for North Carolina, another slate of amazing candidates. So if you want to come back next Wednesday night, that is our last fundraiser of the year.
It's September 21.
Oh, sorry. September 21. Thank you, Jan.